On down the police state updates, we note from dprogram.net, they call it the return of civil disobedience. And there's a nice little video where the cops try and stop school students from singing the national anthem. But fortunately, they do it anyway. Just like I had the freedom to not pledge allegiance to the flag in high school. That, of course, always got me lots of friends. But see, that's what happens when you start listening to the dead Kennedys in junior high. Obama signs a border bill to increase surveillance. Yes, we have the border wars going on as well. Border wars, brush fires, resource wars, ground zero mosques, black versus white. Again, all these dichotomies and boxes that we fight each other about. Again, these things play into a larger scheme being handed down from the international corporate elite to all their roundtables and mouthpieces and Wurlitzers. Obama signed into law a $600 million bill last Friday to pay for 1,500 new border agents, additional unmanned surveillance drones, and new border patrol stations along the southwest border. We also note from the Telegraph, Tea Party groups converge on Mexican border to back immigration law. Again, we're going to be so ready to tear each other apart. And again, we're talking about all kinds of different subjects, but still, all of these things are powder kegs looking for a spark. God knows how many other agent provocateurs or infiltrators or Hal Turner-like plants, dupes, patsies are out there waiting to be used, perhaps even being used in a drill that flipped live that they were unaware of, such as the underwear bomber who actually tried to put the fire out once he discovered it when another passenger pointed it out to him. That was an intelligence operation. But of course, none of the controls go away. I had the pleasure of going to the airport the other night, and I know how bad it is there. And I know how ridiculous it is, but it's one of those things that makes you play the game. I don't want to make a bad face, mostly because I don't want any of their shit, because I don't know how well it would go over once they started to get into it. So you go and you play along and you play nice and you don't have anything bad and you throw out your liquids, even though they would dump all the liquids in the same bucket, which would kind of defeat the purpose of stopping someone from mixing up chemicals in the bathroom. Yet another phony terror event, an intelligence operation that they use to ratchet up the controls on this grid. But when it's been debunked in the back of the newspaper, if at all in the paper, the controls don't go away. It's the frog boil. It's the incremental. That's why it's not going to wake up tomorrow and it's going to be stormtrooper martial law. Nor will it probably be World War III, as Fox News and John Bolton are claiming on the 21st. Slowly turning up the heat. And again, you can pick your analogy, you can pick your quote from history of who they came for and why you didn't protest, because you weren't that. Because either way, at the end, they come to get you, and you're the frog boil, and no one's there to help you. Rasmussen poll reported by Newsmax, where nearly half of the respondents say the U.S. will be nuked. And again, this is what... God, I grew up with it. It was all the commies are going to get us. Jack Van Impe, World War III, Russia, Armageddon. It's all back again. And again, some of the names are changed. It has a new high-tech 21st century overlay, but the fears are all still there. It's still the day after. Putting all of those memes out there. And again... regardless of which level of the official conspiracy theories or official stories you believe, most of these things are all still debunkable. Because even if you fear that Iran's going to get nukes, even if you fear that North Korea is going to nuke us, you got to figure out, how did they get those weapons? How did Kim Jong-il get those? Through Rumsfeld and A.Q. Khan and the black military-industrial complex? Where'd Saddam get those chemical weapons? Funding both sides, playing patsies against each other. Again, like Darren Brown playing the chess masters against each other. But other last few police state notes. Fire-breathing bartenders arrested, facing 45 years in jail. This is from the Washington Examiner. I'm not exactly sure what city this comes out of, but basically fire-breathers who do it as part of their, cocktail shtick have been doing it in some bar for a decade plus, but now they've been arrested because they're probably endangering critical infrastructure. Speaking of critical infrastructure, there's an article from, again, I subscribe to the feeds of a lot of sites. Some of them get posted quite frequently, as of course we refer to AllGov and Activist Post and Blacklisted News and tons of the other great sites out there. There's others that I watch just to see what those folks from their ilk are saying. HomelandSecurityWatch.com, HLSWatch.com, has an article that caught my eye called Homeland Security, Home Depot, Fusion Centers, and a Local Hardware Store. And follow my circle here. This article is basically saying Homeland Security's gotten too big and inefficient. And I realized it when I went to Home Depot and realized now they've gotten big and inefficient, and I'd rather go to my small local hardware store. He was making the analogy that our Homeland Security War of Terror apparatus, the Stasi, the nanny police, the snitches, the green police, whichever it'll be, whatever your town begs for grants for so they can implement this garbage that, again, helps private military contractors selling the fear. And again, they're involved in all of these international operations. You think they want to end these operations? They need to keep business rolling. But what this reminded me of is that places like Home Depot and Target and Walmart are tied in with the fusion centers and are tied in with InfraGard, and these things are all intimately connected. So intentionally or not, HLSWatch.com brought the meme and the idea back. Critical infrastructure, Walmart, Target, Home Depot, your post office. Our last note on police state updates from a Freedom of Information request from Threat Level. Army spy planes not used to track Times Square time bomber. That would be, of course, Faisal Shahzad. This coming, you recall, weeks after the underwear bomber, we had the Times Square time bomber. And essentially, Threat Level was trying to find out, because media outlets reported that basically secret military jets tracked him. Ultimately, FOIA say no. So how did they find him so quickly? Because the headlines, you recall, all said, oh, within 52 hours, they tracked, traced, captured, got him, stopped him, yeah. But how? Time is quickly running away, my friends, so let's blast through this econocrash post on the Hindenburg Omen and the ecstasy of empire. This article comes from Paul Joseph Watson, but we also have links to other fantastic sites like ZeroHedge.com and the aforementioned Activist Post. The dreaded Hindenburg Omen will play out within weeks. UBS Financial Services Director Art Cashin says that we'll know within 3 or 4 weeks whether the dreaded Hindenburg Omen, a set of stock market factors that precede a stock market collapse, will unfold as many are now predicting. The Hindenburg Omen, named after the May 37 Hindenburg disaster, is a technical analysis that, when fulfilled, portends a greater likelihood of a stock market collapse. Although conditions for the Hindenburg Omen have been met previously without a subsequent stock market crash, there's never been a crash without a Hindenburg Omen. SHTFplan.com gets into the real purposes behind this engineered economic collapse. And yes, just like Max Kaiser calls it, just like the events of 9/11, a controlled demolition. But amazingly, and we're going to get into the ecstasy of empire, but CNN mentions the new Paul Craig Roberts article that's on InfoWars.
I want to check in with Jack Cafferty first for the Cafferty file. Jack.
Voters are fed up with our lawmakers' inability to take action when it comes to reducing this country's $1.5 trillion federal deficit. As the Wall Street Journal reports, it's the voters who appear to be more willing to take drastic steps to do something about the nation's mounting red ink.